Hey, welcome into the Spartan Sports Report halftime show. It was a good first half. Welcome in Ian Gilmore alongside Phil Friend from the Lansing State Journal. Phil, let's just get right into unpacking that one. So 1-0 to Michigan State at half. A Farai Mutatu goal. It seems like he can't stop scoring right now. But what impressed you most by MSU in that first half?
From MSU, it kind of comes to Jack Beck. You know, early on, he really was getting involved from his central midfield position, delivering balls through. And they had a couple chances, or they're not great chances, but chances overall. Then, of course, 16 minutes in, he delivers the assist on the Mutatu goal. And Beck has really played great this year. I really cannot stress that enough. He's a guy who last year was MSU's leading goal scorer with 2 goals, no assist. But he's coming in this year with his 6 assists of the season in 8 games. So I continue to be impressed with the way Jack Beck has kind of played as his senior years kind of come along here.
Yeah, it's not a good sign when your leading scorer has 2 goals and you play 10 games, right?
No.
But let's go through that set piece. They get a set piece on the right-hand side. Jack Beck loves those in-swingers. Mutatu somehow gets his head on it. He's not a tall guy, 5'9", I think.
Yeah.
Walk me through, is that just striker's instinct getting on that? It's the second one in 2 games.
Well, we all, in soccer, we always talk about players being in form. And Mutatu is clearly in form right now. He had the hat trick earlier this year, and he's just getting his head on this ball. And I don't know if there's a Mid-Michigan, Greater Lansing connection there between those two with Jack Beck being from nearby DeWitt and Mutatu from nearby Hazlitt. But that's not the first time they've connected on, assist to goal this year. So, I mean, obviously that's been a huge part of the Spartans' success, at least in terms of getting goals this year.
Right. It has been a deadly combination for MSU, and we see last year, like I said, 2 goals as the leading scorer, and they didn't score many, totally. They scored 4 against Wisconsin. Other than that, there wasn't really an offensive explosion. They scored 4 last time out against Notre Dame. They've got 1 here against a really hot Duquesne team. If we look at their performance overall from that first half, started really well. Then Duquesne kind of grew into it. If you're MSU, what kind of changes do you make at half?
Well, I think you just got to get back to being more aggressive with the ball. I know that sounds very simple and soccer 101-ish, but Duquesne really kind of took control, took possession, was a little more, patient with the ball, and for whatever reason, what was working for Michigan State in the first half, working through the central midfield, we weren't really seeing that enough there in the last part of the first half.
Yeah, for Duquesne, like I said, they grew into it. Once they gave up the goal, before that, sort of just a counterattacking mindset, it seemed like. Then they started to grow into it a bit more, get possession, and had some really good chances up front.
Yeah, it felt like it might have been coming there at the end of the period. If they played 5 more minutes, I think they might have got their equalizer there. There was a couple chances where Morse had to kind of dive. I know there was one chance where he had to dive to himself. It was a little bit wide, but it was enough where Morse felt like he had to dive for it. So, if Duquesne keeps kind of playing the way that they played there in the last 15 minutes or so, I think they might get an equalizer. And Michigan State has kind of had a penchant for giving up late goals this year. So I think that's something that we can watch in the second half as well.
I think they'll be knocking on wood, having you said that. But Duquesne, they come in winners of 5 of their last 6. Their only losses have come to number 3 Pitt and number 17 Kentucky. They've already scored 17 goals this season compared to 5 in 7 games all of last year. You have to bet on them to score in the second half, but how do they do it?
Yeah, well, maybe we just don't. Maybe we give Michigan State credit on defense for not conceding the goal. But I think they just kind of got to keep pressuring Michigan State's back line. Like we kind of talked about what they've been doing there in the last 15, 20 minutes or so of the half. So if they keep doing that, it sort of feels like that equalizer might come. But if Michigan State can hold tight and continue playing through the midfield, and maybe they spring Mutatu again and he gets goal number 6 on the year.
Yeah, well, let's talk about Mutatu. It was only hours ago that he was named Big Ten Player of the Week, and then he comes in the first 45 minutes, gets a goal 16 minutes in. He had 3, his first hat trick as an MSU Spartan against Notre Dame, and then he grabs 1 16 minutes in here. He's just so impressive.
Yeah, he is a guy who in 2018, on the team that went to the College Cup, he was a sub, but he was like a super sub guy whose job was to score goals. And he hasn't maybe not quite reached his potential over the past couple of years, but this year he is doing it. Like you look at last year's statistics, 1 goal on 10 shots on target last year. This year, 5 goals, 11 shots on target. So it's just like, soccer's a funny game sometimes. The shots that weren't going in last year are going in this year. So that's kind of got to be a good sign for him and for the Spartans for the rest of the year.
We talked about in 2018 when he did have that breakout year as a freshman, he had other guys around him like Ryan Sierkowski, DeJuan Jones that took the attention off of Mutatu. Yeah. They leave and the attention is fully on Farai Mutatu. It almost seemed like if you shut him down, you were pretty much going to shut MSU down that game. Do you think there's enough talent around Mutatu now that is not the case any longer? That they, even if you shut Mutatu down, which teams haven't been able to do this year but if you do, that it can come from other places?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen Mike Miller score a couple goals this year, and he's a guy who really hadn't been known as a goal scorer throughout his entire MSU career. So, I mean, the possibilities are there. I don't know if they're getting the goals off the bench like maybe they have in 2018 and the years before that as well. But I mean, the possibilities are there, I think.
Okay. We'll talk about the second half and preview the weekend in just a minute. But first, Nick Woodruff played for the Spartans from 2017 to 2019, and he was on that team in 2018 that made it to the College Cup. Since then, the MSU soccer alum has started his own soccer training business called Next Step. So you are the founder of Next Step Training. Where did the inspiration for that come from?
This stuff I fell in love with. I fell in love with the development portion of the game, and basically walked into something, and what we were providing these kids was something that they didn't have, and they were straight up and blunt about it, and they were just like, hey, we haven't been coached like this, or hey, our coaching situation isn't that great. And it was something that deep down inside a little bit it saddened me, that we're in some areas failing this generation and not providing them the tools they need to succeed. But ultimately, for me, hearing that and building relationships with these kids in the families when I first started was kind of something that, when it came the time in about January, when you're getting ready for the next season, mentally I was like half in and half out, and when you're trying to be a pro, you can't have that mentality, and the half in and the half out was because I had something else kind of pulling me away.
How has it been for you now, watching games as an alum of this program?
It's a different experience. You're honestly, you're sometimes like, you're pulling for these guys like so much sometimes, like the guys that you played with and stuff like that. Like I'll text Mike or some of these other guys that after the game and be like, great job. Like, it's something that, it's just a different experience, and you wish, when they're losing, you could be out there and you could fight with them and stuff like that.
Okay, now here's the $1 million question. What are your thoughts on this year's team, and how far do you think they can go?
I think they've looked good. I think they've had some very, very good moments, and then they've had to ride the roller coaster, which is college soccer. But I think that comeback versus Notre Dame shows me a lot. I think that is kind of the heart and the character of Michigan State. I think they need to obviously continue to get better defensively if they're going to keep themselves in more games. But I think they have good leadership. You got Fry, you got Michael, you got Nick Stone. Nick Stone has been there. What's his third year now, and he's knows the culture. He's been around a lot of good players, and so I think they can make a run at the Big Ten. I think they can make a run at the tournament. It will be good, to be back in the NCAA tournament.
Nick Woodruff's right about one thing. It's been a roller coaster of a season so far, Phil, and it doesn't get any easier this weekend. They welcome in Indiana. Maybe not the team they've been in past years, but Indiana always good. How do you think that one goes?
Yeah, Indiana is a team that went to the national title game a year ago and lost to Marshall, and they are not ranked as going into this week. And it's weird seeing not just Indiana not ranked. Only one Big Ten team enters this week ranked in Maryland. So I guess it's been a while, and it's been a while since the Spartans have defeated Indiana. So I guess if there is a time to do it, maybe they spring it on them this week.
Wouldn't be a bad one at home on Sunday. The women also play that day. The women also play on Thursday. We'll have that one for you on Big Ten Plus as well. Let's talk about the second half. Sure. 1-0 for Michigan State. Like you said, they've given up some late goals before. How do they make sure that doesn't happen today?
well, they just got to tighten up that back line, and then the central midfielders need to come back and support. I know that's big of me to ask, hey, come back and play defense and, string together passes in the midfield, like I said earlier.
Well, they've got subs in college. They can do it.
Yeah, but I think if they can just keep their formation, keep their shape, I think the Spartans are going to walk out of here tonight with a W.
Duquesne has 3 guys with 3+ goals already this season. It can come from almost anywhere. Yeah. If it comes, do you think it'll come from one of those 3 or somewhere else?
It'll probably be one of those 3, I would suspect. I mean, if we're talking about gambling here, gambling's legal in Michigan now. We just, bet on the people who do the scoring for them. Just like Matatu is the one who scored the goal for Michigan State here in the first half. He
would have been a betting man's pick to score the first one today. So we'll send you back out to DeMartin Stadium, Adam Baker and Veronica and Jack.